Hello and welcome to this course about how to support your child when they start a new school. This course is primarily aimed at parents and carers of children who are making the transition from primary to secondary school, which usually happens at about age 11. But it will be suitable for any parent or carer or other interested adult supporting or working with a child who is making a transition to a new school at any time. You just might need to adapt some of the ideas a little bit. None of the ideas in this course are designed to be really complicated to access, so you should be able to use the ideas here even if you haven't thought about this topic much at all before at all. We'll keep things really simple and really practical so you've got some ideas that you can go away and try right away. The best ideas though are the ones that work for you and for the child that you care about. So listen in. Have a think about what you think might work for you. Be prepared to give things a try and try to remain flexible in your approach. This is a really exciting time, but it can seem a little bit scary too. So let's have a think together about how we can make sure that your child succeeds when they start their new school. The very first piece of advice I'm going to give you is not to pretend this isn't happening. So sometimes when there are big changes afoot in our lives, then we can tend to do the ostrich thing of the head in the sand. And that's totally understandable because you might have a lot of worries about this change and there might be lots of worries from your child too. And sometimes we think, well, it's not happening yet, let's just pretend it's not there and it might go away. It's not going to go away. So what we need to do is, rather than hiding from it, have a think about what can we positively, proactively do in order to ease this transition. And actually, the sooner that we start thinking about it, the more time that we give ourselves to really, really well prepare. Now, there are some times when you might not choose to do this, when perhaps there's uncertainty and you don't know where your child's going to end up being at school, or there are lots of other things going on in your life, or for some reason with your particular child it might be that the distress that the thought of this new school is bringing is just so much that you don't want to address it ahead of time. You make those decisions with your child and within your family and within your context, but the general rule is that the sooner that we start talking and thinking about this transition, the more time that we have to address any concerns and feel really, really ready when the time comes. Things that can be super helpful are things like a taster day. So if your child is able to meet the other children with whom they'll be in a class with and the teachers and be in the environment that they'll be exposed to every day, that can make a huge difference. I'm filming this during the COVID pandemic and it might not be possible for these things to happen right now, and maybe it's not possible for your child whenever you're watching this because of things like geography or just the logistics of making it happen. If it's not possible to actually be present in the school and spend a day or some time there, there are other things that we can do. So many schools now will have things like a virtual tour, and you might be able to see that online. You can have a look at school websites and just become generally a bit more familiar with the school. Even if your child isn't able to do a proper formal taster day, just visiting and seeing the school at some point can be very helpful, whether that is actual or virtual. And also you might even just familiarise yourself, perhaps if you're moving to the area, by walking past, noticing where the school is, just beginning to feel just a bit more familiar. Basically, things that we're not familiar with, things that are new and novel, can feel a little bit scary. So we want to make them feel less scary by making them feel more familiar. So the more we can expose ourselves to them, the better. We can think too about how we can begin to create some certainty where at the moment you and your child might be experiencing a lot of uncertainty. So the reason why sometimes we want to put our head in the sand is because we don't know how this is all going to work out, and we've got so many questions that we're not quite sure how to answer them. So we can look, instead of worrying about the things that we can't control, think about what are the things that we can control. What are the things that we do know about this new school? Let's try and get as much information as we can about what the uniform's like, who our child might be taught by, what the structure of the school day is there. Things that can seem kind of simple and insignificant to us can be really important to our children. So knowing things like, what time does school start and finish? What happens at lunchtime? Where do they do PE? All these kinds of questions we can begin to explore, and many of those things we will be able to find answers to relatively easily with just a little bit of research too. And that just removes lots and lots and lots of layers of uncertainty. The more that your child feels that they know about this school, the more familiar it begins to feel, the less scary this is. A helpful way to begin to surface the worries and questions and anxieties that your child might have, and indeed that you might have, about the new school and this transition, is to think through a typical day. So this is an exercise you've probably heard me refer to before if you have done any work with me or any of my other training courses. It's really helpful. Just think through a typical day from the moment you or your child wakes up in the morning to the moment they go to bed at night, and think about what this typical day is going to look like in the context of the new school. So we can be thinking about uniform and getting dressed. We can be thinking about what time does the alarm need to go off for this new school? When are we going to need to leave? How are we going to get to school? Who's going to take us? What will happen when we arrive? And just work through the whole day curiously and begin to work out where the questions and the uncertainties are, and begin to put some markers in the ground on the bits that we do know. Find those bits of certainty and anchor them down, the bits we do know. This is the uniform. This is the time that school starts. Oh, we're not quite sure what happens about registration. Let's note that down as a question to ask. And remember, where there are questions or worries, we're much better off naming them, so then we can begin to tame them. So actually exploring this with our child, getting those worries out of our head and down onto a list in paper or out into the world and sharing them, speaking them together. Then, once we know what those worries are, we've named them, we can begin to think how to manage them. It might feel like this is going to take up quite a bit of your energy as you prepare your child and yourself for this move, but this is time and energy really, really well spent. It's not possible to underestimate how big of a deal this is going to be for your child. Moving schools is really, really massive. This is where they're going to spend all of their time. So try not to lose sight of that. This is really, really important. But one thing I would say is that if you have a child who's feeling quite nervous and anxious about this, sometimes we can look at flipping that feeling, because anxiety and excitement actually feel quite similar. So let's look for the bits that we're looking forward to here and see if we might be able to feel excited as well as perhaps a little bit anxious. So hopefully you've begun to think with your child a little bit about the questions that you and they have about starting a new school. So hopefully you will find some opportunities to begin to really explore and contemplate what this start is going to look like for your child. And this will bring up lots of questions, and a great person who will be able to help answer these kinds of questions is actually somebody who's already been there. So if it's at all possible, trying to identify a buddy or a mentor from the school's existing student population can be really helpful. If the school is in your local area, then you may easily be able to do this. You might know of other children who've already attended or currently attend the school who might be prepared to support your child, act as a bit of a buddy and answer their questions. Trying to create these relationships and provide an opportunity for your child to ask questions of an older child can be really helpful. The things that tend to play on our children's minds are often quite different than the things that worry us. They might worry most about things like getting lost within the school, and having an older child say, oh yes, actually I was really worried about that too, and I did get a little bit lost sometimes, but I was able to do X or Y or Z, can really help. And the reassurance that someone who's a bit like them has been there before and they had these same worries and actually it's okay can really help. You might also think, if you're not local to the area or you don't know someone who's already at the school, about approaching the school and saying, can they introduce your child either in real life or virtually to another child who they think your child might get on with and could ask questions of. There are often many children within the school who really happily look to mentor or buddy a younger pupil who might be joining. So asking the school for that is a really good and positive thing to do. It also is a great thing for the school to realise that you're really trying to make sure that this works, and it gives them someone who they can point your child at both before they start and once they've started. This is especially important actually if your child were to be starting school in the middle of a school year, so not along with a whole cohort. If it's just them, having a buddy or mentor already within their class or within the school who's assigned to them can really help that landing to happen better. Think too with your child about whether there is anyone who they can be alongside as they start the school. So if it's an in-year transition like we just mentioned, then that might be someone that the school or you have recognised ahead as someone who will support your child when they arrive. But if your child is transitioning at a normal time, so from year 6 to year 7 in England for example, then they might be moving to their new school alongside lots of their friends. And whilst inevitably there's likely to have been some shuffles of friendships and classes and some children will have gone to other schools, it's quite likely that your child knows at least one person who will be starting with them. So make plans together. Think about how you're going to enable that very first day to start successfully. I think we can never ever lose sight of how important those first moments are. When our child first arrives at school, being able to do so confidently with a friend by their side, having a bit of an idea about what to expect, having that nervous excitement rather than just big anxiety, makes a really big difference to their ability to really thrive as they land. And of course, if it doesn't go right away, we shouldn't completely lose sight of how we can begin to pick that up and fix it, because we get a new chance every day. Every day is a chance to have another new beginning, to walk back into school again. But doing a little bit of work to make sure that our child confidently and excitedly walks through the school gates on day one makes a really big difference. Other things that you can think about with the school and with your child are whether there are ways that they can begin to quickly become part of the school community. So in particular, if your child has got any particular interests or hobbies or activities or sports that they really love, then you might have a look ahead and see whether the school has any extracurricular or other opportunities for engaging in those things. This is important for so many reasons. One, it gives your child something to be excited about. Two, it can create an opportunity for them to make friends with other children who like doing similar things. So if they absolutely love science and there's a science club, they can really look forward to that, and it's likely they'll find friends there. And three, quickly becoming involved with these kinds of activities will help your child very rapidly to feel part of the community. And those opportunities come within the classroom, but actually we often find that it's the stuff that happens outside the classroom, in the break times, the lunch times and after school, that can make a huge difference to kids. So have a think about whether you can find a buddy or mentor for your child, or whether the school might support with this to answer all their questions and think about how things are going to be. Consider what that first day will look like and who they might walk through the school gates with, and explore whether there are any clubs or activities that might help your child to land really well and rapidly integrate within the school community and make some new friends. There might be some things that are worrying you or your child about starting a new school. But it's really important that we don't allow those niggles and worries and anxieties to overshadow what is ultimately a really exciting time. Now remember, we said before about how anxiety and excitement are really similar feelings, and what we're looking to do here, if we can, is to tap into the excitement, to notice this feeling that we have about the new school and to recognise it as an exciting feeling, and to see this as a really, really good and positive opportunity. Now, this is something that you will need to lead on as the adult that your child trusts. You need to think really carefully about the way in which you frame your conversations and your thoughts and your actions around the lead up to starting the new school. You might have lots of worries too, but if you can frame them as positives and excitement, this is a lead that your child will follow. So have a think about the things that you can look forward to. There will be reasons why you've chosen this school. Remember those, keep in touch with those. Perhaps your child was really excited about the school's, sporting reputation in a particular sport that they like, or maybe they really loved the science labs, or maybe they've heard that this is the school where if you're really good at maths, you get to become a maths champion. Or maybe they thought it looked like a really beautiful building set in really amazing surroundings, and that really excited them. Or maybe they're looking forward to making new friends, or maybe there will be all sorts of different reasons that attracted you and your child to this new school. Remind yourself of those reasons often, revisit them, get excited about them. Remember that this is a really exciting and positive time. When you look around the school, or when you meet with people online, or when your child meets with a buddy or mentor or friend, then talk to them about what they're excited about. What are the things that they love about the school? If you get the chance to talk to teachers or other students, pick their brains and say, what's the best thing that's happened to them here? What do they get excited about? What are their happiest memories they've made in the school? Really focus in on the positives here. Give yourself some really good, exciting hooks to hang things on. But one small caveat here that I come back to often: it's our child's motivations that matter here, not ours. There might be reasons why we chose the school that might be different than the things that motivate our child to attend. It's your child that's going to need to go there every day. So let's think with them about the things that motivate and excite them about the school, and use those as the things that we're looking forward to, rather than layering over adult expectations and motivations. So what motivates your child? And how can we weave this into our conversations about this exciting new school start? Now, this move might be the biggest one that your child has made to date. This might be the biggest challenge that they've faced in their life, and it probably feels pretty scary for them in many ways, although also exciting, as we touched on before. But this won't be the only challenge, the only difficult thing that they've ever had to do. So what we can do here with our child is to look back and reflect on other times when they've had to overcome some challenge or go somewhere new, and learn from what went well, and also actually learn from what didn't go so well as well. This is a really great learning opportunity and can help to build your child's confidence in their ability to manage this situation, because it might feel big and scary and new, but they have done things like this before. Maybe you can think about when they first started school, or maybe they went and stayed at a friend's house for the first time, or maybe they started a new activity with children they didn't know very well before, or even just moving between classes to a new teacher will be an experience that most children will have had. So think about times when they've had to put themselves in new situations, when they've had to be a little bit braver, and what happened then. So think with your child, brainstorm this out with them and consider when are times when they've had to be a little bit brave. And as always, this is about their perception, not yours. So you might be a bit surprised by some of the things that they say. Children can be funny. Sometimes there will be situations that we think were objectively stressful or difficult and they've taken them in their stride. But there might be other things that your child brings up that you didn't even realise was the thing that had really worried them. But if it was the thing that really worried them, then let's think about that and think about how they managed that. Think about what helped and what they might do differently next time. So perhaps they'll tell you about a time when they went to the doctor and you can't even remember this situation, but for them it was very worrying. And they might talk about how the fact that you were there with them, or they took their toy with them, or that the doctor spoke really kindly and explained what was going to happen, made things feel okay. There'll be all sorts of different examples from their life of times when they found things a bit scary and different and new and worrying, and they'll be able to draw on what worked well for them and what didn't work so well in those scenarios. But it's about them and their perception of those situations, not you and yours. So explore with them times they've overcome challenge, when things have been new, and what worked. Also though, think about what was less good. So what was really unhelpful in those situations? What are the things that we want to try and avoid and do differently next time? And it's important to remember, I think, that any time that we get things wrong, we make mistakes, things don't go quite as well as we would have planned, that's okay as long as we learn from it. So let's look back and see what we got wrong, or what our child got wrong, or what they think would be more helpful another time. You can also explore these questions with other children, so children that your child knows who might be moving with them to the new school, or with older siblings or other friends who might have faced other similar challenges too. And you might think with older siblings or older buddies or mentors, for example, about how they found starting this new school in the past and what went well for them and what they might do differently next time. They will be able to give really, really good advice to your child because they've been there. They've walked the walk and talked the talk. A helpful thing to kind of drill down on here can be thinking about times when you were really proud of how your child managed a situation. So we're moving away here from the times that they found hard and thinking about you as a parent when you were surprised or excited or proud about how your child managed a situation that you thought looked really tough and they made it seem like something they were really quite able to do. Talk to them about that. Share your pride. Be very specific about what it was that they did and why you were proud of them that day, and help to build up their confidence that way as well. You might need to just really think and reflect back through your child's childhood thus far and think about times when they showed resilience, when they showed their ability to do new things, where they did make new friends, where they were not too fazed by these new situations. Bring those situations back to mind for your child. Tell them about it from your point of view as the proud parent or carer or other adult, and help them to tap into those feelings and what enabled them to tackle those situations so well. Some of these memories might be things that your child doesn't remember, in just the same way that some of their memories might not be ones you remember. And so you'll need to really paint those memories vividly for them and help them to understand how things looked from your point of view that day. But looking back and reflecting on the past can be a really, really helpful way of building our confidence in our ability to manage a new situation as we look forwards. I'm a massive fan of planning. The more planning that we can do, the less likely things are to go wrong. Or at least if things do go wrong, the more likely we are to be able to manage those things if they go wrong. So look ahead. Plan with your child what the typical day is going to look like. Plan what they're going to wear, what they're going to eat, who they're going to walk into school with. Plan what this day will be like for them. Think too about all the things that could go wrong. Use if-then planning to manage worries and anxieties about the things that could go awry for them. So children will often be carrying a lot of worries about the transition into a new school, and we can't make those worries go away necessarily, but we can manage them by having a really good plan in place for what if. So really common worry for children is, what if I get lost? That's one of the most common worries that I hear from children. So we should not dismiss that worry and say, oh, don't be silly, you'll be fine, or, you know, everybody gets lost, or, you know, any of those dismissive things that might come straight to mind. Instead, say, I can see you're worried about getting lost. So what could you do if you were lost? And plan for that situation. So things that a child could do if they were lost, they might have a map, and they might learn to use the map ahead, and they might make sure they're really familiar with that ahead of school. They could ask another child how to get to the next place. They could make sure that they're always with someone who's going the same direction, so at least if they get lost together. They could ask an adult. There's lots and lots of different ways that we could manage the scenario of getting lost. And actually that's true of pretty much any scenario. So think ahead with your child, plan for all the things that they're worrying about, and have plans in place for what your child should do if things go wrong. What if I walk into the lunch hall and I don't know anyone and no one wants to sit with me and talk to me? What do I do then? Make a plan for it. What if I'm in class and I don't understand what's going on because they've been learning different things than me? Make a plan for that. Make a plan for all the things, get them all out, all those worries out, and make a plan. It won't be completely watertight, but some people worry that planning for the things that could go wrong mean that those worries become bigger and bigger and bigger. But actually knowing that we have a plan for what to do if things go wrong means that when they do, and some things will, your child might get lost, your child might find they have no one to talk to in the lunch hall or in the break time. When these things happen, they will have a plan about what to do next. And that will mean that the whole day won't get derailed and they're more likely to succeed. Another really helpful thing to plan here is to plan about who is in your child's support network. So who are the people that they can turn to if for any reason they're struggling or they need help or reassurance? Who can they talk to? So try to make sure that those people have got faces and names for your child before they start the school if possible. So of course at home perhaps they've got yourself. But within school, maybe they have an older sibling, or maybe there's a friend or a buddy or a mentor they can turn to. Maybe we can make sure they know what their new teacher is called and what they look like. Maybe if your child has special needs, we can ensure that they know the name and the face of the Senko or other supporting staff who look after children with special needs. Maybe we can make sure that they know the faces and names of a few relevant staff who they could turn to if they were in need of help. Make sure that they know that they are going to be in an environment where people care and they want them to be okay, and that it is okay to ask for help, and that is a sign always of strength and never of weakness, and that they know who are the people they could ask. But in addition to that, make sure that your child knows that actually they can ask anyone. Any of the adults within school will always do their best to help a child if a child is in need of help. And that is true from the office staff to the cleaning staff to the teaching support staff to the teachers to the head teacher. Everybody will want to help a child or signpost other sources of support if needed. So helpful things you can do are to prepare your child for that, make them feel confident talking to adults, and perhaps practice with them a couple of scripts that they could use. What words, if they're beginning to panic and we know we lose our words at those times, what words could they use to ask for the help of an adult if they're struggling? So you might practice, for example, if a child is lost and they need to ask for the help of an adult, you might actually literally practice the words they would say. I've got lost and I don't know how to get to my next class. Can you help me, please? Something as simple as that, having that ready, having practiced it, role playing it with your child, can really build their confidence, and can mean that if that happens, they have the confidence to ask an adult rather than perhaps quietly withdrawing or panicking and things going less well for them. I would like to wager a bet that for 99% of children, within often days and if not weeks, this just becomes the norm. They will manage better than we expect that they might in most cases, and they just kind of get on with it and it's all okay. Now that's great and obviously what we're aiming for, but my ask of you is not to let that completely slip you by, but rather to stop and to notice how well your child is doing. Sometimes we're always so focused on the next thing, and when things are going okay, we don't always take time to stop and notice. So if you can, just stop and reflect and celebrate any successes that your child is having in their new school. So you might look to do this at the beginning every day. Actually look back at the day. What went well? What might we do differently tomorrow? But what's worth celebrating today? What are they proud of? And really crucially, make sure that you tell your child that you are proud of them. These are words that children really need to hear. Say them, write them down, make sure you're really specific. Let your child know that this is a really big thing that they've done and you're really, really proud of them. Go very specific and celebrate even really small successes, particularly if your child is finding the transition more difficult for any reason. Focus in on the bits that they are getting right, the things that are going well. Be really positive about that and look to build on those successes, and use those successes to help you find ways in to helping with the bits that are perhaps going a little bit less well. As time passes, you might not look to do this every day anymore, but at the end of the week or the month or the half term, reflecting back on how things have been going and how your child is getting on and the things that they're proud of and that you're proud of too, is a really, really good and positive habit to get into. It helps to continue reinforcing the importance of school, the importance of your child trying, and it reminds them that we're really proud of them for what they're doing every day. And these are the things that build children up and make them able to really, really thrive. So I hope that after watching this course you feel a little bit more prepared for supporting your child as they make the exciting move to a new school. You might still have questions, there might still be lots of things that you're not quite sure about, and my main piece of advice here would be to have open and honest discussions with your child. Explore these questions together. Two heads will always be better than one here. This is a really exciting moment in your child's life, and we have the opportunity here through open and honest communication, through support and guidance, and through careful planning to make sure that this is a great opportunity for them, that they land well, that they do succeed. Remember too that your worries and your anxieties about this do matter. You need to make sure that you've got people to whom you can talk to about this and seek reassurance for yourself. But that it's very important that you try, if you can, to role model flipping those anxious feelings into excitement, and to try to be positive and proactive in your communications about the school. When you role model that, when you show your child that you're excited, that there's uncertainty here, but we're excited, they will follow your lead. Best of luck to you, and particularly to your child as they start their new school.